we have no parts, right? Because the whole supply chain has broken down, there is no more parts to be produced. There's no way we can get the parts. What do we do, right? And this is a scenario that could crumble a lot of companies who are reliant on this supply chains, right? And if they can't have the supply, they can't produce, everyone's on idle. So this is a very serious scenario that can happen, and it's already happened recently in the last 2-3 months. The other scenario is you keep so much inventory, you keep so much stock, and what if that whole production line or that machinery is obsolete and no one uses this because technology is moving in such a fast speed, right? If you keep so much stock of inventory and all of this is just, it's money basically lying there, and it's stuck and you cannot move this inventory, it's money tied there, you're going to lose a lot of cash flow, right? So this is another scenario that we don't want to end up with, where we want it to be like just in time, like the Japanese, like you get it and then straight away you can use it. But most of the time we end up with this kind of scenarios where it's overstock or oversupply, right? And we don't want that as well. So just giving you a little bit of a history tour. What revolution are we in right now? So we had the first revolution, which was water and steam, and that was in the 1700s, right? And then we progressed really fast. We went into the second revolution where electricity and mass production was working. That's in the 1800s. The third revolution, which is our era right now, it's the electronics and automation. So a lot of the things was automated, factory lines were produced. So we continue making a lot of mass production products. But this is still the third revolution, right? We have now entered the fourth revolution, right? And that is changing everything. And it's called digital manufacturing. This is the way it's going to change a lot of industries, a lot of sectors on how we run our business, on how we do things. And it's affecting every single industries across the board. For example, aviation, aerospace is getting affected, automotive, defense, energy, medical, consumer goods, anything and everything that you can think of. The industrial revolution is here, and that's the fourth industrial revolution. Smart manufacturing, right? That's the keyword. So how do we adopt, and how are we preparing ourselves for this fourth revolution, which is already here, so that we keep we are always ahead of the game in this? Because if we don't keep up with the way technology is moving, we will be left behind very quickly. So just a little bit about 3D printing in a whole and the impact that it has. So this was an article from Forbes, right? And from the Vollers report, which is a very famous report on the 3D printing industry. In 2020, it's estimated to be about $15.8 billion for additive manufacturing products and services. And this amount is going to double or more than double by 2024. And that's in 4 years' time. So this industry is really, really growing really quickly, and it's going to be adopted very, very fast across our organizations. I mean, a lot of the schools, I mean, that's the first factor. If you see schools investing a lot of their money in this technology, you can understand that they are preparing the younger generation to take up this technology, and they take the skill sets to our existing companies and to implement this technology in their organization. So additive manufacturing is definitely going to grow exponentially in the next few years. And this is something that we need to be ready, right? So what is additive manufacturing and 3D printing? What is it all about? Now, to sum it up in a very simple nutshell, right? Basically, the first thing in the first diagram that you see in A is that you have a material block. This is very, very common and very familiar to those who are doing CNC and CNC manufacturing, right? It's called subtractive manufacturing, where you get a material, you put it there, and the machine cuts it into a lot of pieces to get your final object. And then you notice that there is a lot of wastage in this, right? This is what is called subtractive manufacturing. It's something that all of us know what it's about. Now, additive manufacturing, which in its word is adding, right, is you take the material, you put it into a 3D printer, for example, and it's adding material to the part that you want to print. So only parts that wanting to be that is needed to be printed, that is the part that comes out of it. So there is very little wastage. So that's how we differentiate additive manufacturing with subtractive. And this is the essence of 3D printing. adding materials to what you want printed. So how do we begin, right? So the first option, and this is a common option, is you have to do CAD modeling, right? So CAD modeling is basically all the softwares that are available. Some of you must have been already trained with these famous softwares. Some of them are free and you can go and check them out online. It's basically creating a digital file, right? So you have a model or you have a 2D diagram, and from there, you create the file and you make your 3D object out of that. And the file that we are talking about today is called an STL file, right? It's something like a Photoshop file, like a PSD file or a PowerPoint file where you have PPT. Just imagine 3D printing is a STL file. That's the one that we want. So we get this file. That's one option, right? So now you have a digital file ready. The other option, a lot of my customers come to me and say, look, I don't have anyone who can do this. I don't have anyone who can model for me. What do I do, right? So the second option is 3D scanning. So 3D scanning is basically taking a scanner, and that scanner actually takes thousands of images of the object and it scans it to get your part, right? So I'm going to play you a video to show you what I mean. Take a look. So this is the scanning portion of it, right? So this is where you get a handheld scanner and you scan whatever object. And this is really interesting because sometimes we don't have the drawings anymore. They're really old parts and you want to do refabrication of this. This is where 3D scanning will come in. So the first option is you design your file and you get the digital file, or the second one is where you scan it and then you get your 3D file.